really it's about honoring your own body, right? And your own hunger and your own, like, what do you want and what do you need? And really tuning into yourself and that, inner voice or inner desire and not, you really have to shut out the external in order to intuitively eat.
You do.
And it's
You do.
also about, not eating until you're stuffed, right? But really listening to your body and stopping when you're done.
Hello, and welcome to the Art of Living Well podcast. I'm Stephanie May Potter, and I'm here with my co-host, Marnie Marmette.
We created the Art of Living Well podcast to empower you to live your happiest, healthiest, and most authentic life. Each week, we will bring you inspiring and motivating conversations covering health and wellness topics, including fitness, mindset, food, travel, product reviews, and strategies from a variety of experts, including our own bank of knowledge.
We are excited to educate, motivate, and inspire you to change the way you perceive health and discover your art of living well. Get ready to feel inspired. Hello, and welcome to episode 113 of the Art of Living Well podcast. Marnie and Stephanie are coming on today as your integrative health practitioners and holistic health coaches to discuss a topic that we feel pretty passionate about. It's something that I think growing up when we did, and we won't, date ourselves right now, it was pretty prevalent, and that's the diet culture and breaking free from the diet culture. And we both struggle with this, even still, though we've both done a lot of work. And we know from working with our clients and listening and interacting with a lot of you guys that a lot of women struggle with this, and not just women, men too, but I think seemed to be more prevalent for females. And we're not looking for perfection. We're not suggesting perfection. We don't even like that word. But today we're going to dive in and really talk about what does it mean to learn to eat intuitively, and how can we listen to our inner voice and break free from the diet culture. But before we dive into that, I want a couple of things. One, we just want to throw out this disclaimer that this podcast is for educational purposes only, and it's not a substitute for individual medical or mental health advice.
But first, a quick word from our sponsor, Thrive Chiropractic. I was first introduced to Thrive Chiropractic over 5 years ago for kinesiology-based food sensitivity testing. I was so amazed by this non-invasive and inexpensive technique that I took my son to have testing done, which confirmed some of his food sensitivities. Both my son and I now have regular tune-ups, and even my leery husband has felt the immense benefits from receiving chiropractic care, including cupping.
With over 25 years of clinical experience, the doctors at Thrive Chiropractic, located in Minnetonka, Minnesota, combine their passion for wellness with a strong expertise in effective treatment approaches. When you first come to Thrive Chiropractic, the doctors are focused on helping you feel better as soon as possible, and they recognize that one type of treatment or technique does not work for everyone. Your comprehensive exam, personal goals, and individual concerns help the doctors tailor your custom treatment plan for maximum results. Thrive Chiropractic's integrative approach offers holistic and effective healthcare with a full spectrum of complementary products and services, including acupuncture, massage, food sensitivity testing, CBD, and premium supplements.
As a special offer, Thrive Chiropractic would like to invite listeners of our podcast to experience the gift of health with a $25 new patient visit, which includes the initial consultation, a comprehensive exam, any necessary x-rays, and first adjustments. Simply visit the website at www.thrivechiromn.com or call 952-746-5612 and reference the Art of Living Well podcast. When you're seeking effective, non-invasive treatment approaches to support your health goals, let Thrive Chiropractic be your partner in wellness. Call or book online today.
I want to start out by just asking Marnie, what's been new and good in your life? It's been a while since we've chatted with our listeners.
Yeah. Well, it's fun to be here together, just the two of us, because it's been a while. But what's new? Well, I just got home from Barcelona, which my husband and I went to visit my son, who is currently living there and studying there. And that was an amazing week of disconnection from my life here and just being in another country surrounded by people, other people that I'm not usually surrounded by, eating other foods, just walking around the city. And it was amazing and wonderful. And it reminded me how much I miss traveling abroad during the pandemic. And let's see, what else is going on in my life? I'm still working on my book. I have a deadline that I need to meet tomorrow, actually, that I'm
Oh,
racing
wow.
against. So I'm doing that. And I'm starting to reconnect with friends, which has been really nice. Although I've kept, a small circle of friends during the pandemic, I'm starting to finally reach out to more friends that I lost touch with over these last 2 years. And that feels really good to me. And I'm hoping as the numbers continue to drop, that I can continue to come out of this cocoon that I feel like I've been in for the last 2 years. And later on today, I'm headed up to northern Minnesota with my family. I'm really looking forward to that, just getting into nature this weekend. Nature is my happy place. It's very healing for me, keeps me present. So that's what's going on in my life right now. What about you, Stephanie?
Well, first, I just want to say that sounds wonderful. And I love seeing your pictures because I too miss the traveling abroad. And I think maybe we can touch on something during this conversation about food when you're traveling abroad and you don't know what options are, what options you're going to have, right? So we can chat a little bit about that, but it was just something I thought of. I remember seeing a post of yours about dinner and things like that. So that's great. And I can't wait to continue to update our listeners on your book and, when that's ultimately going to be published. So congrats.
Thank you.
So for me, while you were in Spain, let's see, I was out of town for a couple of hockey tournaments, but I got to go to North Dakota last weekend, which I had not been to North Dakota. So I got to check that state from my list. I was in Fargo for my youngest son's hockey tournament. And for those of you who don't live in a cold climate, part of the highway towards the end got shut down because of high winds, like 50 to 60 mile an hour high winds. There were big trucks that were off the side of the road in ditches. And so all the state, troopers and public safety crew had to dig out those trucks before they could open the highway back up. So it took me like an extra 2 hours. So that was exciting. And then what else do I have going on? Since January, I've been pretty focused. I'm getting qualified to sit for the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaches exam. And that's something I've been working on for the last couple of months. And so I finally submitted all my paperwork and now I'm just studying. And I have these study groups a couple times a week with a few different women from across the country that I got connected with online. And we're really holding ourselves accountable. That test is going to be May 2nd. So I feel like between now and then, I'm really heads down and I want to get through that material so I can take it once and be done with it. It's definitely a lot of studying and it's way more studying than I've done since I took the CPA exam. And that was a couple decades ago. So, and then like you, I'm actually headed out of town tomorrow morning to a friend's cabin about 2.5 hours away. And I'm really excited. I've never been there. They just got this cabin and there's will be 3 families that are going. And I'm just excited to be outside. There's way more snow up there and be in nature and hopefully stay warm and just
Probably
connect.
laugh a lot, right?
Laugh a lot, relax, rest,
Yes.
and
All of
spend
the
time with
above.
my kids too. I haven't seen my oldest son is never around. I don't ever see him anymore. So it'll be nice. I'm looking forward to it.
That all sounds so wonderful. And I admire how hard you're working on this studying for this exam because I remember reading the requirements and thinking to myself, yeah, I don't want to do that. So, and I know you're going to pass and it's going to be great. And you're working your butt off. So nice work.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, should we dive into our topic today of
Yes.
intuitive eating and ditching the diet culture. I think this is a topic that is so personal for both of us, and I think for most women out there, right?
I agree. I mean, maybe we should just talk like, where did this even start? Because I do feel like it's our generation and then our parents, way back however many years ago, that it came to the forefront. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's
Yeah, I
always
don't.
been out there for a long time.
I actually, that would be an interesting thing for us to research because I don't know what the history of like dieting is. But I do remember, you know, that my both of my parents were always very focused on fat free. Everything was fat free and staying thin and staying in shape and staying healthy, what they deemed healthy at the time. And I think that was very much what was going on, at the time. It wasn't just in my house.
Right.
Um, and like we've talked about this before, even with the snack wells, like
Oh
there's
God.
nothing
Yeah.
healthy about those snack well cookies, right? But we all thought they were healthy because they said fat free on them.
Right. And I just remember my mom always, not always, for a lot of those years being on a diet. So like whatever Weight Watchers was back then, she was doing Weight Watchers. It was called the diet, some equivalent locally. And she would go and talk about the meetings and weighing herself and keeping a record and having little, before we had the internet, before we had my fitness pal, keeping track of calories. And I remember doing that. I don't know if I was in late middle school or in high school, but I remember having a notebook and writing down the calories of what I ate and writing down what I did to work out and Jane Fonda videos. But it didn't come from a place of enjoyment. Like it wasn't exercise necessarily that I intuitively enjoyed. It was doing something because I thought I had to burn off the calories of what I ate. It was very much a calories in, calories out mentality.
Well, and it's interesting because I was thinking about this morning. When I was a kid growing up, I was very skinny. I was like bony. Like my knees were knobby, my elbows, like I was just pretty bony.
Yeah.
And I wasn't that interested in food in all honesty, just because I just wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I kind of came into my teen years, I realized I could eat whatever I wanted because I had a very fast metabolism and I thought I was like the luckiest girl alive, I can eat whatever I want and I'm going to stay skinny. And I remember even looking at other people that maybe weren't as fortunate, I'm putting this in quotes, that gained weight easier if they ate pizza or whatever it is, and feeling sorry for them. And today, when I think about that whole mentality, and I'm being really honest here,
Yeah.
it's like horrible, right? And I don't know where this came from, but I'm assuming it came from my upbringing and, you know, being told, "Oh, you're so lucky all the time. You're so lucky. You're
I'm
so
sure.
skinny. You're so skinny, skinny, skinny. You can eat whatever
Yeah.
you want." And it's like this gets ingrained in you as you're raised, and
Mm.
it's just so interesting that then as I become an adult who starts to understand what these things have done to me over many years, I have to work on undoing all of this.
Right. And it's so interesting because I had like the opposite. I mean, I was always 10 to 15, 20 pounds overweight. I don't think the word skinny was ever used to describe myself. I mean, people may have used it in my 40s. People who know me now think that, oh, you're fit and you're active. And I never felt this way or looked this way or, really took care of myself in that way. But I was always the one that had to lose a little bit of weight. Right. And so I was always on a diet naturally. But I think, that someone telling you that you look a certain way, like you're skinny, you have a good metabolism, that totally messes with you. Right. Because then you believe that that's what's important. And so you make decisions based on that too.
Well, and what happened to me is, then when you get pregnant with your first child, all of a sudden I mean, I really pretty much was skinny until I had babies. So
Yeah.
you get pregnant with your first child and all of a sudden you're gaining all this weight and that kind of messes with you when your whole vision of yourself changes. And um, if I were starting over with all the knowledge I have today, I feel like I would embrace it in such a different way.
Yeah. And what's interesting when I was thinking about this and just kind of like preparing for our discussion today, I started thinking about like, when have I, up until recently in the last, few years, when have I eaten intuitively? Like, when in my life did I eat based on what I thought my body really needed? And I actually thought when I was pregnant, because you remember you would have those like intense food cravings. And even though at the time I was, back then still in my late 20s, my 30s, focused on food and, probably still having an unhealthy relationship at that point, but the fat and all that, I would just eat whatever. I mean, I remember a couple times like wanting to eat ice cream and baked Doritos or whatever. And that was like my dinner, because that's what my body wanted and craved at the time. And not that that's necessarily good, but there's really, okay, I do that 1 or 2 times. Is that the end of the world? No. And then I think we go through this point, a lot of us, at least myself did, where I wouldn't eat that because I thought it was bad. But at the time when I was pregnant, I actually was listening to my body and just eating what it wanted. And I think like that's part of the intuitive eating. It's not telling yourself no, or like not to eat something or to eat something because of some external pressure or motivation. It's tuning into your inner voice and what your body needs. And we're all unique, beautiful humans, right? And some people can eat vegetarian and some people like can't, like their bodies don't do well on that diet, right? So to tell someone to eat a certain way because that's what you do is really not, like, I know as a coach, that's not something that I do with clients, because I want them to tune in and listen to their bodies and be able to like eat for their lifestyle, but for what their body needs. I mean, it sounds very simple, but
Absolutely. I mean, and while doing that, rejecting that whole diet mentality, right? Like we
right,
don't need Weight Watchers.
right.
That's We don't need to count calories. We don't need to even necessarily track everything. I was talking to my daughter the other day, and she was telling me that she knows so many girls, 17 and 18-year-old girls, and they're writing down the
Oh,
calories that they're ingesting every day. And then they're trying to figure out how they can burn more calories than the number of calories they're ingesting. And my heart was just breaking. I'm like, this is so sad.
that makes
Like,
me really sad.
how did we
How,
come to this?
no, because like that's what I just explained that I did when I was younger, and I really thought we were a
Right.
little further advanced, if that's, but no, because now we have Instagram and now we have social media and TikToks, and it's all about what everyone else is doing.
Right.
And I think you and I've had this conversation before where we're to a point where we can tune out a lot, maybe not all, but a lot of what's going on outside, because we've done a lot of work and we've been on our own journeys. But a lot of people haven't. And then speaking to parents out there that do have girls, right? Um, how do you practically just eat intuitively? What does that even mean, I guess?
Right, exactly. And it's like, really it's about honoring your own body, right? And your own hunger and your own, like, what do you want and what do you need? And really tuning into yourself and that, inner voice or inner desire, and not, you really have to shut out the external in order to intuitively eat.
You do.
And it's
You do.
also about, not eating until you're stuffed, right? But really listening to your body and stopping when you're done.
Yes. And I think what happens is either people follow a strict diet of, and it could just be a way of eating. So either they're only eating plant-based, or they're only eating vegan, or they're only eating paleo or keto, or whatever works for someone else, they're going to try it, right? So there's that approach. And then there's I'm just going to eat whatever I want, because all the negative self-talk and the voices in your head and the self-sabotaging, right? So, I blew it last night, so I might as well just forget the diet. I can't do it. I'm a failure. And then you go down that path. So it's like you have these two extremes. And you got to get rid of the voices in your head. I think, Marnie, you and I we've interviewed people recently talking about this, whose episodes will be dropped in the future, about how you do that, through different ways. And so that's probably a topic for
And that's the
for another
awareness,
day.
right? Like you need
Yeah,
the awareness around that. But like even when you were just saying that, it's not even just the voices in your head, it's even the voices around you. Like
mm-hmm.
someone said to me the other day, I can't remember what I ate. Oh, I know what it was. I had a piece of naan.
Yeah,
And they were like, you don't eat gluten. And I was like, well, actually, like So maybe go back 5 years and I was like, I am not eating one speck of gluten, very strict. Okay, well, I've learned a lot in these 5 years. Now I don't eat a lot of gluten. I eat very little gluten. And guess what? It's up to me when I eat the gluten. It's not up to you. You don't get to decide. I get to decide. If I want a piece of naan, I'm going to eat the naan.
Yep.
I'm doing what feels good to me, what feels good to my body. I know that if I eat too much gluten, I tend to get a rash. But I've
Right.
kind of figured out what works for me. And guess what? It's not your business, it's my business. And I think that's
Exactly.
a good example of intuitive eating.
Right. Yes. And I think it's just getting to that place of like homeostasis where there are certain foods that some people can and cannot eat. Doesn't mean that you can never eat them, but you're honoring your body. And it's not being on a diet for me. It's a way of living and eating, no different than I want to get outside and move my body. Ideally, I'm doing something, even if it's for 10 minutes in the flipping cold, freezing weather outside, right? Because that feels good to me and it helps with my physical and emotional and mental health. It's no different with food. I'm honoring and choosing to eat a certain way, you know, because it feels good for me and I know it works for my body. And that's what it means. So I don't, people are like, well, how do you eat? Or what's the best diet? Or what do you think about this diet? I'm like, I don't know, because bio-individuality, everyone is different. And some people can do very well with gluten, and some people can't. And it also, so again, it's taking time to be with yourself though, to figure and honor and figure out what works for you. And it's not easy. This sounds really simple, but it's not, right?
And not only what works for you, but what satisfies you, right?
Right.
Like and I don't mean like eating your feelings in a piece of chocolate cake. I mean like really feeling satisfied and good inside whatever that food may be, right? Not burying yourself in it, but like
Right.
really coming through and feeling full and satisfied and good. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it's thinking about like, what's your vision? Like, how do you want to feel? How do you want to sleep? Oh, it's really important to me that I get up and, work out. Oh, okay. So then maybe I shouldn't maybe I should eat a certain way in order to be able to do what it is you want to do. Um, and I think it's some of this just comes down to like making peace with food, because what I've seen with a lot of women is that, it goes back to childhood. And so it's either, oh, I always had a treat after I did well on a test, or I always had a certain food, in the house around this time of year. There's a lot of like emotional attachment to food. And I know we've talked about this like around holidays and stuff and how you deal with that. But then it's, again, you're listening to someone else. You're listening to family tell you what you should eat and not recognizing I actually don't even like the taste of that food, or it really makes me feel very uncomfortable. So I'm not going to eat it, and like honoring that. And
Right.
that can be tough.
And even when you were talking about programming from childhood, that programming of I have to be perfect, right? A lot of us were
Yeah.
raised feeling like we have to look a certain way, act a certain way, be a certain way. And diet can play into that a lot because, even on Instagram and social media and on TV and
Mm-hmm.
magazines, we're seeing all of these very edited, very skinny women, although that's starting to change a little bit, right? There's some companies
Yes.
now that are showing all different shapes and sizes, which is wonderful. But for the most part, people want to be skinny, right?
Yeah.
They want to be skinny and they don't necessarily care if they're healthy. They want
Right.
to be skinny. And
Yes.
I've had a number of friends say to me, like, I don't have time to like cook my meals and focus on the things that I know I should do to lose weight. I'm just going to do Weight Watchers, or I'm just going to do whatever program. They give me the food, they give me the bars,
Yeah.
calories in, calories out. And in my head, I'm thinking, you're not honoring yourself that way. Like
Uh-uh.
you're listening to the external and you're not um you're just not honoring yourself.
Right. No, whenever it comes from another source externally, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. It's either because you want to look a certain way, like you said, like you want to be skinny, or it's you want to please someone. There's a lot of just like people pleasing out there that again can come from childhood as well. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot of layers that need to be peeled back with this topic, right?
Yeah, very much. Like the other day, I had just finished working out and my mom called me and I said, I just finished working out. And she's like, oh, so you can stay nice and skinny or something like that. And I was like, well, actually, I was working out because I feel really good when I work out. I feel strong. I get some of my like anxiety and stress out. I calm myself down. And I said, I feel really good inside when I work out. It has nothing to
Yes.
do with trying to be skinny.
Right. No, I know. And, I think some of this with food, it has to do with control as well. It's like a
Hmm.
variable that people can control. So when they're, parts of their lives are out of control, they use food as a way to control. Right. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm going to share this. I actually just shared it on social media yesterday, but for myself, just within my own journey and just calming my nervous system, have felt like I need to control certain areas of my life. And I think that has manifested with my kids in the house with food, just given I do like to eat very clean because that honestly like really nourishes my body and I feel amazing. But it can become a little bit of a struggle with my kids, right? Now that they're teens. And so I just told them that there's going to be a couple days where they can eat whatever they want. So it's not like, oh, you can eat this or here's some options. It's literally like they could eat chips and crackers all day long if they want. They don't have to eat a single vegetable. They don't have to eat a single piece of fruit. And I cannot say anything. Like I cannot roll an eye. I cannot make a comment. And I want them to eat intuitively, right? This is and this started before we even, I think it talked about even recording this podcast episode today. And so it's interesting, and I feel really good about it. Like I feel calm. It's not making me anxious to be like, oh, my kids haven't had a vegetable in 2 days, or I don't know if they had or not, because they're packing their own lunch. They're making their own dinners. They just have to like clean up after themselves. And it's kind of freeing, I have to say, as a parent, just to not even worry about it. And I'm actually surprised with how calm I am about it.
I think that's awesome. And I think you're doing your kids a service because you provide lots of healthy options in your home, and they're going to grab those options when they want them. And that's all you can ask for, right? Like,
I agree. I totally agree. And my youngest son, he's obviously still young. He's only 11. And he came home and on his own yesterday, he's like, Mom, I had 3 pieces of fruit yesterday. I had a pear, I had a banana, and I had, an apple or whatever it was. And I was like, well, that's great. I didn't make a huge deal about it, but it just shows, to your point, like they will naturally eat what their body needs when there's good options available.
yeah, and
So,
I was one of those kids where my parents would sit me at the table with my protein and vegetable and whatever and put a timer on because I literally wouldn't eat. Like it's not that I wouldn't eat. I would eat, but I wouldn't eat, and my body would tell me I was full after 7 bites or whatever it was. Like I
yeah,
was done, and they
yeah,
wanted me to eat an entire full plate of food.
yeah.
So they would put the timer on, and I would literally be sitting at the table. I'm not joking, for like an extra 45 minutes. And then I
Oh
would
my
eventually
gosh.
feed the food to the dog
Yeah.
under the table almost regularly, like very regularly, because my body wasn't hungry and I didn't want to eat it.
That's it's so perfect because we innately know at a very young age what we need to eat, like how much we need to eat. And we can self-regulate more as kids. Like just I think about all the times that I've done it where I've been like, you have to eat this, not clean plate club, because I've tried to go away from that mentality now for several years, but telling someone what they need. And I'm like, you know what? If they don't want to eat the meat today and they actually just want to eat vegetables, that's totally okay. That's what their body needs. So I think it's like we as parents think that we know better, and we don't. Like the young child, for the most part, as long as you're serving them relatively good food, they can pick and choose and decide exactly what they want and how much they need on that given day.
Absolutely. And I've been trying to say to my kids, like, you stop when you're full.
Mm-hmm.
Take a small portion on your plate, eat it. If you want more, grab more. But I'm so not into the clean plate club. Like I
No,
was raised with the clean plate club. Even my
totally.
grandmother, she grew up in the Depression. So like
Right.
everything, you needed to use every scrap of everything. And
For sure.
I just like, but that's really not intuitive, right? Like that's almost the
No.
opposite because it's almost like force feeding. And granted, it was very different time. So I
Right.
can't even compare. But today it's not the Great Depression. So
No.
we don't need to eat like that.
Right. Exactly. That's such a good example. Um, I mean, what for our listeners would are like tips or suggestions or things that they could do for themselves with their families, um, to tune in and learn to eat intuitively?
I mean, even just watching your language, right? Like really watching the things that you say around food and being, having that awareness about diets and body image and, you know, like you said, commenting on what your kids are eating. Or I think having an awareness is such a big first step.
Agree. And that's something that I feel like I've been really good about avoiding that in my family, especially like you have two daughters, I have a daughter. Um, just, I don't think we ever use the word diet, or I'm very much, if anyone brings that word up, I'm like, no, that's not. Yeah. Counting calories and having that mindset in my mind, just having gone through it like you, it's just not healthy. Right. But how do you learn to eat intuitively? Like we were talking before we started recording, like when you go to make a choice in the morning about what to have for breakfast, or do you want coffee or tea, really like think about that, like pause for a minute and take a breath and think like, what do I want today? Not like, oh, there's that voice in the back of my head and someone said I shouldn't drink coffee, so I'm going to drink tea. And should I have caffeinated tea or decaf? Well, someone else said I shouldn't have caffeinated tea, so I'm going to just do decaf. Or, listening to that voice with every choice you make throughout the day when you make choices, and then maybe don't be so quick to make a decision right away and just like stop and take a pause, is one way that maybe that will help you tune into your intuition when it comes to food and other areas of your life too.
And it takes a lot of practice. Like this is
Yeah.
not going to come naturally, right? Because we are so
No.
programmed from the external and from our inner voices. But I think, like Stephanie said, just like really tuning into what you want, you, not the voices around you, and being kind to yourself and
Mm-hmm.
gracious with yourself, right? Like if you
Yes.
want the coffee this morning, then have your coffee and don't beat
Right.
yourself up about it.
Right. Exactly. And I just think too, like really listening to what, like how you feel after and even like the next day will help you hone in on what your body really needs, because we're all unique and all unique individuals.
And I know there's a lot of emotions that come with food in general, and a lot of people tie emotions to food and eating and, finding ways to cope with your emotions like other ways besides food, whether it's, working with an energy healer or taking a walk outside or talking to a friend or, we've talked about a lot of different ways to kind of deal with emotional trauma or just emotions in general. So again, having that awareness that, trying to disengage food and emotion from each other, from one another.
Yes. And I think what's really important too is, and Marnie, I know you work with clients one-on-one. I work with clients one-on-one to do this. This takes a long time. This is a journey. Like we say, health is a journey, not a destination, and it's not a linear path. And it's okay. Like go out there, go to a party or a social gathering or go out to dinner with a friend and enjoy a really great meal. And if you do feel a little too full later that evening or, the next day, just reset. Like just tell yourself you enjoyed it. You have this great meal, and then don't beat yourself up and go on that downward spiral. and listen to your body and decide what it needs and when it needs to eat the next day, and move on, and just have gratitude for the fact that you got to, have a great dinner the night before, or be with friends, or whatever the situation is, and just move on, and tell yourself, don't tell yourself you're a failure, right? You're exactly where you need to be, and you're perfect just the way you are, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, you said this, but I'm going to drive it home again. This takes a lot of work and a lot of practice. And I'm on my own journey. Stephanie's on her own journey. I think that women across the board struggle with this issue. And, there is no perfect. We're not even striving for perfect. We just want to be authentic and true to ourselves.
Right. I think the point is you already are perfect, just the way you are. But I think that authenticity, what Marnie just said, is so important. You want to be authentic within your own body. So
what can we do, right? What can we do?
Yes.
Well, Stephanie mentioned earlier, taking a step back and thinking about, what do I want today? Like, ask yourself that, write it down, every little decision that you need to make throughout the day, whether it's food related, what to wear, ask yourself that question and take a pause, think about it, and then tune into yourself and try and, do what you want to do.
Yes. And even if something as simple as like taking a walk outside without your phone, without listening to a podcast, although we'd love for you to listen to ours, of course, and just paying attention to your body, how you feel, the birds, nature, whatever it is around you, that will help ground you and get you to tune out the external noise and the distractions and focus on yourself. But we would love to hear from you guys. Like, does this resonate with you? First of all, is this topic something you want us to continue to explore and dive deeper? Where are you on your journey to eating intuitively?
So let us know your thoughts. You can reach out to us on Instagram, Facebook, our website, theartoflivingwell.us, email, any way you want. Come find us. We'd love to hear from you, answer questions, dive into this topic further.
Yeah, maybe we could even do like an Instagram live or something, and you guys could connect with us real time. So
have a great day, everybody.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Art of Living Well podcast. We are so grateful that you joined us today.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend or anyone else you think may benefit from this information. We'd love for you to subscribe to our podcast, leave us a review, and tag the Art of Living Well podcast on social media.
If you want more inspiration in between episodes, you can find us on social media at theartofliving_well on Instagram and Facebook, where we will share snippets from our daily lives and our journey to living well.